Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of my comic book movies retro reviews. Yes, today we're going to take a look at the 1995 Sylvester Stallone comic book classic, Judge Dredd. Let's get into it. Okay, so Judge Dredd. This film came out in 1995 with a 1 hour and 36-minute runtime and a 15 rating. Here in the UK, it was released on July the 21st of that year. The film is based on a comic book character that was introduced in 1977 within the pages of the British comic book strip 2000 AD, with the character being conceived by John Wagner and Carlos Escuera. Now, Judge Dredd as a comic book has run strong since then to today. He was the main theme, the main character of 2000 AD after his introduction, and since then he has been published under the IDW banner, and before that under DC. Yes, DC done their version of Judge Dredd, which was pretty good. I remember reading it. The character within the comics has fought Batman on several occasions. He's fought the Predator. He's fought aliens from the Aliens films. Yes, all these crossovers have been done. But going to 1995, is this film any good or isn't it? Now, this film was directed by Danny Cannon. Danny Cannon was pretty new to directing, and how he got this job, I don't know, because this is a massive film on a $90 million budget. After this, Danny Cannon would go on to direct I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, a couple of other films, but primarily his directing has gone to TV. More recently, he has directed episodes of Gotham, Pennyworth, among other TV shows that you may well recognise. The film was written by Michael DeLuca, who had actually written years before Freddy's Nightmares, the TV series, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. That's the sixth film, I believe. And after writing this film, he only ever wrote one episode of Star Trek Voyager. But he is massive as a producer. He's a very big producer in films, yes. So this film went on to star Sylvester Stallone in the title role of Judge Dredd, Armand Asante as his clone brother Rico, Rob Schneider as Fergie, the comic relief of the film, Jurgen Prochnow as Judge Griffin, Max von Sydow as Judge Fargo, and Diane Lane as Judge Hershey. And she would later on go to play Ma Kent in the Zack Snyder version of Man of Steel. So this film is set in the year 2139. The Earth has become unpopulated, unlivable, with the exception of these mega cities, which are sprawling metropolises that are ring-fenced off by massive big walls, and the population in there is massive. You have a space for about 20 million people, but you have 65 million people living within these sort of mega city areas, and they grow upwards, so much so that on the surface levels it is just darkness. Now, this film made the mistake of removing Judge Dredd's helmet. Yes, comic book Judge Dredd's helmet has never been removed. It may have done from the back, you may have seen the back of his head, but you've never seen his face, and that's how it has always been. But this film, the producers would never have allowed Sylvester Stallone to stay hidden behind a mask, because he's their selling power. He is the person selling this film. His face sells, and that's what they wanted. So that turned this film a bit into something like a Demolition Man kind of a movie, which is around the same sort of era. The story of this film revolves around Judge Dredd being framed for a crime that he didn't commit by his brother, who he doesn't know is his brother, and they are both clones. And his brother and some of the Judge Council, one member of the Judge Council, want to wreak havoc so they can introduce this project of theirs, a Janus project, where these clones, more clones are made to police the city. Yes, so a bit of a weird one, but I'm not going to go deep into the story of this because I can talk about this film for ages. I tell you, and you'll see why. You'll see why. Now, I remember this film coming out. I remember the trailers for it. I remember being excited by the trailers. I remember being super excited that we were getting a Judge Dredd film finally. The fact that he took his mask off didn't really bother me too much, because although I was aware of Judge Dredd, not really a character that I'd read too much. But this film had a lot of problems. Had a lot of problems in its making. There was a lot of push and pull between director Danny Cannon and star Sylvester Stallone. Danny Cannon wanted a sort of darker take, a more satirical take of the character, while Stallone saw it as being this action comedy, which is eventually pretty much what we got with the inclusion of Rob Schneider as Fergie. Yes. So all I can tell you is that at the time I really loved this film. I loved it. I loved the look of it. I loved the designs of the suit, the designs of the bike, just the world that they inhabited. I loved it all. I really did. But does this film hold up? So I watched this again last night, just before doing this review. And what can I say? Now, I've always known that this is a film that I can pick apart. It always has been, because there's a lot of questions, a lot that's wrong in the writing of it. And I'm going to go into depth into that sort of stuff. Because like I said, I enjoy the film. I like the film, I'm not going to deny that. But I could write a thesis on everything wrong with it. And I'm going to go through some of that stuff now, because it's rather fun to talk about. So anyway, so as the film opens, we're sort of introduced to Rob Schneider's character, Fergie. He's got out of prison and he arrives into Mega City 1 and he gets into this minicab. Now, before he gets into the minicab, you get a look at the city, and the city's in darkness. It's shrouded in darkness like it's nighttime, right? And this taxi takes off and it flies up, and it's wonderful, wonderful. You've got a beautiful score by Alan Silvestri. Yes, the music, I've got it on CD, the soundtrack for this, and it is fabulous. So as this minicab goes up above the city, higher and higher, it comes up over the top and you see the vastness of Mega City 1. It looks fantastic, but it's daylight. It's daylight, yeah. Down on the ground, it's not, it's darkness, right? Because daylight never gets down to the ground levels, because it is so compact and these buildings have grown up so high that you don't get daylight. And that's fabulous. Only the makers forgot this. They forgot this halfway through the film. Once you get to the scene where Judge Dredd blows up that red Lamborghini, you know, the one where the geezer who's illegally parked and got unpaid tickets or whatever in a driving ban, it's daylight. It's daylight. You count how many scenes are filmed in daylight after that. There's no excuse for it. They're not on higher levels. They're on ground level, right? And not only that, that scene where Fergie steps out and he's looking around and you see the first shot of the city. It doesn't go up too high, but it's from his point of view and it pans up a bit. When you see him after that, in the middle of the screen, you see this pipe going like that. Big pipe that's in the set. There's a small triangle in the middle of the screen there. Look for it. It's daylight. They haven't filled that in with special effects, right? Now that little bit is picking, but you know, as the film goes on, they forgot that this film should be filmed all at night time. Not only that, you get to the scene where Judge Dredd's introduced, the block war between the two blocks, right? Judge Dredd steps out, and Judge Hershey, she's hiding with this other young cadet, and they're telling him to get down. Well, he says to him, why are you hiding? Why are you down there? He goes, they're shooting with whatever they're shooting with. It's got an effective lethal range of whatever distance, and we're at this distance, you're quite safe. Yet, rewind 1 minute, and these people are shooting people on the ground. People are being shot, right? So there's another issue with this film. And I'm going to keep doing these because I love watching this film and picking out these issues. Okay, the scene where Judge Dredd is with the cadets and he's giving them the speech and he's going, this is the law master or the lawgiver, whatever, yours if you pass, that sort of thing. And then they come to the bike that doesn't fly, it drops, and he goes, yours if they ever get it to work. Only later on in the film, when he steals the bike and heads off out on it, and it does finally work as they're careering towards the ground, they start getting chased by 3 other or 4 other motorbikes that fly. Okay, so they couldn't get it to work. Okay, what are you going to say? That this is a newer model of the bike, but yet they've that they've got that technology working on other bikes, but they can't get it working on this bike. It's just bad writing. It's badly written, right? It's done for effect. You know, let's have a bike chase, but let's forget about the fact that we've said that this bike doesn't actually work. Again, bad. Now, also in this film, Judge Dredd does kill people. He kills other judges. He kills some of the ones in the black costumes, the ones on the bikes. These are people just doing their jobs. All right, as you've seen one or two that are bad when Judge Griffin orders them to kill the pilots of the spaceship that ship that crashes and this sort of thing. But a lot of these are people just doing their own jobs. In the Hall of Justice, he assaults another judge, but at the end of the film, he's let go. But he's killed people. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, just all this silly nonsense stuff like that, and it really is bad. It really is. The writing is awful within this film. However, the film looks fantastic. It really does look really good, and I'd love to see a 4K release of this film at some point. The acting within the film is it's embarrassing at times. Between Sylvester Stallone, Armand Asante, and Jürgen Prochnow, you've got three very different accents, very different. I don't know what they were going with that sort of with that side of it. I think the only person that really comes off with any credence out of this film is Diane Lane. Max von Sydow, he's very good, don't get me wrong, but Diane Lane's the only one who really gets any decency out of it. The comedic tone between Fergie and Dredd, alright, some of it does get a laugh, but Sylvester Stallone's reactions to Fergie are particularly bad. Fergie doesn't really bother me in the context of the film. He doesn't wind me up or anything like that. He might, but what does wind me up is Stallone's reactions to him. That I don't like, that I find very embarrassing. So for that reason, I would eject Fergie from the story. This film took a long time being made, and it was made even longer by the movie Robocop. Yes, Robocop is essentially a version of this character. That's how Robocop came to be. So when this film came to pass, that also became a factor for them removing the helmet, given that Robocop, you know, people would say, well, this film's just ripping off Robocop, but it was actually vice versa. Also, that might be part of the reason why I wanted to go for a sort of comedic touch as opposed to a satirical, because Robocop had done it and done it fantastically several years beforehand. So yeah, it's an unfortunate film, and on my viewing of it, I've got to say that it dipped. My love for the film on this last viewing has dropped, which is really unfortunate. I think the film looks fantastic. You know, it gets the world of Judge Dredd 100%. The look of it, the inhabitants, the characters, the ABC robot, the Cursed Earth people, you know, the family in the Cursed Earth, all this sort of stuff, spot on. But unfortunately, it just drops the ball with the character of Judge Dredd. They didn't get that character right, and that truly really is unfortunate for this movie. Not only that, but the story in this film serves better as a sequel story as opposed to an introduction story. The whole we're going to have you make it look like that you've done something bad and are being punished for it. It has no effect, because if you don't know the character of Judge Dredd, you don't know what he's really about. So it doesn't work. The film should have been more like what the remake was, in a sort of day in the life of Judge Dredd, and then if it did get sequels, you'd go into these stories for the sequel, because this is essentially a part 2 story more than anything else. Originally, they did want to do Judge Death, that is a sort of demon judge from a different reality that judges people for living. Again, that would have been sequel fodder, so I completely understand why they didn't want to go for that one. That being said, you know, I did like it less this time around, and that's the first time I've ever said that about this movie. But it's always a film that I can pick apart for its faults. There are a lot more than what I've said in the context of the writing and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel bad really that I've watched it and I came away feeling this negative towards it, because up till now I've always thought that I've loved this film. I mean, you know, I always have, even with its issues and its problems. But I guess it ain't aging well for me. Maybe I'm getting older, maybe I'm getting more mature, and seeing it for what it really is. But there you go. But it's a film that I will revisit again. I will watch. If a 4K came, I would pick it up. What else can I say? Judge Dredd. Thank God for the remake, which no one went to see, unfortunately. But I will come to that in another episode of this. Anyway, I'm getting going. But before I do, jump down in them comments. Let me know your thoughts on this movie and what you think of it. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Come and join me. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care all and goodbye.